Hi everyone, this is Elias Martin of CollectingJapanesePrints.com. Welcome to Woodblock Wednesday, where every Wednesday we get together and discuss Japanese prints, paintings, history, and culture. This is a very late Woodblock Wednesday. I usually go live at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's a little after 7 p.m. right now, but I wanted to go live because I had some prints to share and, of course, some information. And I had some workmen over at the building. They were doing work to the pipes. It was really noisy. And so, I thought I should do it right now. There are no more interruptions, hopefully, knock on wood. But anyway, welcome to Woodblock Wednesday. Today's episode directly relates to the previous one. I showed a print by Shoson and Possession last week, and a lot of people were interested in learning more about bird and flower prints by Japanese print artists. And so Kacho-e or Kacho-e, sorry, Kacho-e is something else. So Kacho-e is bird and flower prints. It's a genre of printmaking. It's been very popular since the Edo period, and 20th century print artists continued the tradition of producing these designs. And so I pulled three uh, further examples that show beautiful designs of birds by three artists. And I think it'll be interesting to see how all three of them treat the same subject kind of differently. So without further ado, let's go to the table and have a look. So because it's evening now, and I usually do mine video in the afternoon, the light's a bit different. It's a little bit more dramatic. I have an overhead light above the table, but then I have another light coming in from an angle. And I hope it's not too distracting, and I hope the colors are visible. So, I'm just going to pan over so you could see the designs. There's three designs of beautiful birds. As I said, this is a tradition that started in the Edo period. And, print artists like Hiroshi, Hokusai, and others who were primarily known for their woodblock prints of landscapes produced bird and flower prints too. So, this is interesting in how these artists continued the tradition, but did them slightly different. So, this first print is a really striking design of an eagle in the snow. It's done by Ohara Shoson, and the print was done in 1933. It's called Eagle in Flight Against Snowy Sky. And so the design is just really striking. It's this eagle caught in mid-flight, and you could just see his face with with his beak. His talons are there. Everything is articulated really well and such great detail. And then the background is done in this intricate um, sort of matrix of of lines and circles that suggest wind, and also the snow. So it looks like it's just snow coming in at an angle, which accentuates the speed that this bird is going. This design, though it is a moment in time, it's still very dynamic, and it does capture that sense of movement quite well. And then the bottom there is a beautiful sort of arrangement of trees in the snow with some trees in silhouette in the background. And of course, we have the artist's signature here, Shosun, and the Watanabe seal there. So I spoke about Shosun last time, and so if you want to catch on a little bit of information on him, feel free to look at the previous video, 2 weeks ago actually, and so. This, for today's purposes, I'll just say that Shosun was a really prolific artist who primarily focused on bird and flower prints, and he signed his prints in three signatures. He had three pen names or artist names, and for Watanabe, he was known as Shosun, but he's also known as Kosun and Hosun. And so there were different publishers he worked with, and he signed his prints differently with each particular publisher. And so I'm just going to zoom in so you can really see this wonderful detail. Now, this print happens to be on my website, available for sale. And on my website, I have high res scans of all the prints that I carry, even in my archive. They're all high res. So you could drag it, you could click on the image and then drag it onto your desktop, and you could blow it up. And it's the size of your screen. It's actually much larger. So you can look and see the detail. But for our purposes today, it's just really wonderful to see the close-ups of the background and how intricate that is. It's kind of a design that seems kind of soft and muted until you really closely engage, and then you look and go, no, that background is completely intricate and carved, obviously by the woodblock carver to create this wonderful dynamic quality where the wind seems to be coming in from the top all the way down, and this bird is getting caught in that gust of wind. It's just a striking design, and actually it's one of my most favorite prints that Shoson did. There's a couple more, but this is the top five, really. So I'm going to move on to the next work, and we'll come back to all three at the end. And this very large scale print, I should point out that the Shosun print is an Oban size print. This this print is by Rakusan, and this is a double Oban size print. So there's two of those prints fit into this design. And this design, and here I'll back up a little bit so you could just see it on the table. It's called Egrets in Winter, and it's from his series of 100 prints titled Rakusan's Bird and Flower Pictures. The series was done, it was started in 1929 and it was completed in 1933. And this design happens to be the second design in the series. It's the second plate. And so basically it's from 1929. And this series was really popular. Rakusan produced some really striking and beautiful prints, and they were reprinted a few times. And this happens to be the very first edition of the image. And the way that I can tell is that the bottom has the information on the title. It also has Rakusan's watermark in the paper. You don't, on the later versions, you don't see the watermark paper, and you also don't see the title. And then sometimes it's just a portion of the title. There's some variations. It depends on the design. But in this design, this is how the first state or the first edition print looks like. And I want to come in on the design so I could show you how striking it is. There's gold flakes in the background. There's these silver printed, very fine feathers that seem to be coming out from the egret. And then on the bird itself, there's this beautiful embossing throughout. I wish you could be here so you could see the shadows of the raised printing that's caused from the embossing. And I'm going to angle this print a little bit so you could kind of see how thickly embossed it is and how much the paper is raised from the surface. It has a really strong three-dimensional quality. It's really striking. And of course, the beak and the eyes are there. There's some gold there. I mean, nothing was spared in the production of this design. The design is striking, but the production techniques are the best that you could be utilizing at the time. So you have gold and silver metallics, you have embossing. It really creates a very luxurious sort of feel to the printing, and the print is just fantastic. I should say that Rakusan was highly influenced by other sort of bird and flower prints, but particularly he was interested in Western prints. And so, this design, is something that could be encountered by several Western artists working at the time, if not earlier. And so, I should point out that this design, being in this large scale format, is owes its inspiration to Western prints. Particularly, I should say, is Autobahn. Autobahn was one of Rakusan's most strongest influences. And though I don't think Rakusan could have produced a larger print, this is probably as large as he could push for this genre. Nonetheless, it's really really striking. And as I said, his series was so popular that it was produced in various editions. So I'm going to zoom in so you can look at the print. I'm going to back out so you could see the two prints and how much larger the Rakusan is compared to the Shosun. As I said, it's two of the Shosun that create the size of the Rakusan. And then the next print I'll discuss is a work by Hiroshi Yoshida. It's part of his Zoological Garden series from 1926. It's actually a pretty early work within his body of work. It's called Kibatan Parrots, and the work, as I said, was done in 1926. And Hiroshi Yoshida was known he was probably one of the most important 20th century landscape printmakers. He and Hasui are probably the two top artists, but both Hasui and Yoshida dabbled in different subjects. Hasui did a couple of portraits. I don't know if he did any parrots, but Yoshida did a few portraits, and he did, I think, three parrots. And so this is one of the three that belong to that series, and you could see it's a beautiful design. The parrot is so beautifully articulated, and the background is done with this really lively printing technique that creates texture and almost brings the bird out. It's almost three-dimensional, and the colors are really striking. You see on the crown there, this beautiful yellow, and there's some yellows and slight kind of mustard, uh, yellow greenish color at the bottom, and so it's just a really striking design. I'm going to bring this over a little bit so it's in the light. It's a little bit dark over there in that corner, so you could see it. It's coming. It's reading a little light, darker on my camera. So there you go. This is a better depiction of the print. It's really striking. It has an early brown Jazuri seal, what you would expect for a print of this period. And so it's just really striking and overall a beautiful bird design. So I'm going to come in and so you could see the printing technique. What's notable here is the shading in the feathers and how Yoshida got this effect. It's quite striking. Now, the other thing I'll point out, we have a pencil signature, and his early period prints are also titled in pencil. They were later carved into a block and stamped and basically printed. And his early prints also are hand signed in Japanese script. His later designs are actually printed. This signature part is printed, where here it's a live signature. I'm going to zoom in so you can see. Yoshida carved his signature in the blocks later because for him it seemed redundant signing both on the bottom in pencil and then in the image, since it's both are his signature. He primarily focused on pencil signatures. In some cases, there are some that are not signed, and those prints were sold for the domestic market, where they all had the signature in the image. The most important thing for collectors of Yoshida's work is that it have a Jizuri seal. 95% of his designs were produced with Jizuri seals. There's a couple that are not, and you just need to know which designs those are. But in those cases, they're always signed in pencil. And so you have to learn how to find a live signature versus one that's been printed. And the printed signature is actually very close at mimicking the sort of the live quality of a pencil signature. So you have to be careful. Just look at that texture. That's just great. So these three prints, in addition to the two that I discussed a couple of weeks ago, one by Kosan and one by Zeshin, really sort of give you a great overview of 20th century printmaking that's focused on bird and flower designs. So I'm glad I was able to bring these out and share them with you. While we're looking at them, I also want to point out a couple things. We're sort of in the middle of Asia Week. And of course, because COVID, no one is traveling to New York to participate in Asia Week events. Everything is sort of virtual. And in keeping in line with that, I actually have a lecture, a seminar I'm giving this weekend in commemoration of Asia Week. And so I invite all of you, and I hope you can join me this Saturday, March 20th at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So that's 2 p.m. Chicago time. And the exhibition or the seminar is titled Old Roots and New Shoots, Yamamoto Kanae, Tabari Kogan, and the Early Years of Sosaku Hanga. So this is sort of a continuation of our conversation of my previous seminar that I gave a few months ago about Sosaku Hanga artists, but this is actually the prequel to that talk. It will discuss the earliest designs by the Sosaku Hanga artists. And so, if you wanted to learn more about the Sosaku Hanga movement, I encourage you to join me for that conversation. Again, it's this Saturday, and it will be sort of informal. I will have all the prints that we'll discuss on hand, and if you've seen my other seminars, it's just like a Woodblock Wednesday. I'll have prints and we'll discuss them. But the prints that I'll show will be in service to the greater conversation about the early years of the Sosaku Hanga movement. So I encourage all of you to join me on Saturday for that. So I'm going to zoom in on all three so you could see the prints one last time. So I want to thank you for joining me on Woodblock Wednesday. If you haven't had a chance, I encourage you to visit my website, collectingjapaneseprints.com. If you have any questions about the prints that you saw today, feel free to leave me a message or in the comments below. Otherwise, you could private message me. I'd be happy to address your questions. I'm also interested in receiving requests. So if there's an area in Japanese printmaking that you'd like to learn more about, I'd be happy to accommodate you and learn about your area of interest. And I might do a video focused on your question. So feel free to message me about that as well. And as I mentioned, this weekend I'll be doing a seminar. It's my next seminar in my seminar series. I'm doing it in commemoration of Asia Week, and it's focused on the early period of Sosaku Hanga. So I'm hoping you can join me. It'll be at 2 p.m. And if you cannot join me, I will be posting the seminar on my website. And so all of my seminars and my Woodblock Wednesdays are all archived on my website. You could just go there and click on the particular seminar or Woodblock Wednesday, and you could certainly watch anything I've done in the past. So if you haven't seen any, feel free to check out my large archive that's growing even larger. So thank you for joining me today on Woodblock Wednesday. I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.